Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you here as always. Now that we've resolved some of the YouTube issues that I was having trying to post that last video that I finally got up, yay! I wanted to pop back by and because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was talking about how Justine, my biological egg donor, as I like to call her, um, she was my mother. Um, Texted me this weekend, and I it triggered me really, really badly. And in the last video, I was talking about how, my friend had told me that triggers are unhealed inner wounds. So I took that, I didn't actually realize that I was triggered at the time. That was the main thing that kind of caught me off guard. I was just so angry. And I was like, why am I so angry? I'm not really angry like this anymore. I used to be. I used to be very angry, honestly. And so it got me thinking, and I was just like, well, when was it that I was actually really angry? And I was like, oh, yeah, it was when my mother was still a part of my life. And so that kind of, got me thinking a little bit more about, the triggers and got me. And so I did kind of ask myself, all right, what unhealed wound am I still healing from? And what can I do to help myself heal? And I realized that one of the best ways for me to help myself heal from that wound was to block her and not have her as a part of my life. Now, I didn't come to this decision lightly, of course, I thought about it, and it was every time that she has been a part of my life, it has really not been conducive to my growth or my healing. And so, yeah, I decided that, you know what, I just really can't have her as a part of my life. I'm still very angry at her. I have forgiven her, but I'm still very angry at her. And I think the best thing for me to do was to seek out closure. Now, I have sought out closure from her before because my friend Laura and I were talking about it, and she said, well, maybe you need to have that conversation with her, that really hard conversation. And I was just like, but I've tried doing that with her before. I've tried talking to her and telling her that, having her as a part of my life was not very conducive to my growth. And she was still very insistent and such. And so I and I kind of wondered if, because it was my aunt, the one that adopted me when they were arrested, that, you know, um, essentially talked me into, resuming communication with her. So I thought about it, and I was like, maybe I need to find both the closure within myself and also have the hard conversation with my aunt about it. And so later that night, I sat down with my aunt and I told her, this is my choice. I don't feel like having her in my life is conducive to my growth. I don't feel like it's healthy for me. And I was like, I'm angry with her still. And it's not just because of what she did when I was a child. It's also things that she's done when I have given her other opportunities to become a part of my life again. It was almost like I gave her an inch and she took a mile type of thing. And so I decided that I was going to find my closure by setting up a boundary. And I told my aunt, I'm not going to stand in the way of you and her having a relationship, but I don't wish to speak to her at all. I really just don't want her around. And whether or not she's around my kids, that's up to them, because I'm not going to let my decision influence anyone else. Just like what I try to do with you guys on this channel, what I try to do with everybody is I let people know what worked or didn't work for me, and they can make up their minds based on that. Just like letting people not like you. If they don't want to be your friend, as far as I'm concerned, that's their loss. But they have that free will. They have that choice. And sometimes people just aren't ready for insightful and caring people such as us. So, but that's up to them. You got to give them the choice. Otherwise, it's almost like you're trying to force your opinion onto somebody. That's not fair, And I've talked about that before as well, as far as any type of like force or persuasion or something like that can lead to like feelings of resentment even. I've had experience with that with my kids, that I thought I was doing the right thing, but they felt manipulated and they got very angry with me. So, I kind of just developed this ultimate honesty thing with them, whereas I will give them my insight, I will give them my experiences, and sometimes, like I tell my friends, sometimes you just have to be there to pick up the pieces. I mean, now that doesn't mean that you're not, not allowed to get angry, because, you are allowed to, tell them, I did tell you this was going to happen, that's, yeah, because ultimately it's kind of one of those things that, if it happens enough, maybe every once in a while they might actually listen. Just my advice would be to try to put it a little bit more delicately, just because, well, kids, but or friends, or whomever you're speaking to, let them know your insights and your thoughts about it. And this is especially true when it comes to trying to help somebody who is in a narcissistic relationship. They have to come to that thought process on their own. Sadly, the only thing that you can do really is just let them know that they've got a safe space that they can come to with somebody who really does care. I've expressed my dislike for these narcissists, and I just kind of got to leave it at that, and let them complain, let them vent, And after that, you know, without repeating yourself, because, that kind of backfires on you big time. I've had that backfire quite a few times, unfortunately, and I've lost a lot of really good friends that I feel I really could have helped. But unfortunately, my disdain for their partner, I let it go a little bit too far, and it backfired on me. Their partner ultimately won and said, see, they're just trying to break us up, and all this other stuff. Now, however, there have been instances that I've, expressed my disdain and dislike for that person, and just kind of let it go. And they tried to disrespect me. Now, me and my family. Now, they did this on purpose. That's the thing, is they were trying to chase us away and distance and isolate the person that they were with, that they were trying to manipulate. And I knew they were doing this. So I expressed myself, I put down my boundaries, and I said, they are no longer allowed in this house. And I'm like, you are. You and the rest of your family, for all I care, are more than welcome. We love you. We still love you. We're not going anywhere. But they are not. You are perfectly welcome to express your boundaries and set them, like I was saying. But you can't speak for everybody, until you've actually spoken to everybody, So we kind of had a family meeting and decided that, the steps that we were going to take, and make sure that the person that they were trying to isolate did not feel isolated. We were, but we set firm boundaries. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but it was basically one of those that they, burst into the house, started barking orders, and it just, that's not going to happen here. So, from now on, it's a firm, they are not allowed in the house, period. Doesn't matter what they're here for, they can stand outside and wait. But, the other person is more than welcome. They can come in, they can, because they never have, come in with an attitude and barking orders and things like that. That doesn't fly for me. I'm, So, if, you are more than welcome to share an encounter like this in the comments. I would love to hear it, and I'd love to hear how you handled it, because, maybe you guys have some ideas on how to handle it that I hadn't thought of, So, yeah, let me know. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.